Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Ordinary Council meeting, 6th of September 2022. Great to see some people in our gallery tonight. We'll start the meeting with the first item, which CEO will read.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Recording and live streaming of council meetings. All council meetings are filmed with both video and audio being recorded. Video is focused on a specific area, however, audio from the entire room is captured. In common with all narrative during council meetings, verbal responses to congratulations, obituaries and question time will not be recorded in the written minutes. By submitting a question, you consent to your question being read aloud at the meeting. The reasoning behind recording council meetings is to hold us more accountable and to improve the transparency of council's decision-making to our community. The full meeting is being streamed live on council's YouTube channel, which is Alpine Shire Council, and will also be available on the YouTube channel shortly after this meeting.
Thank you. Item 2 is acknowledgement of traditional custodians and recognition of all people. The Alpine Shire acknowledges the Tongranong traditional owners and their ancestors as the traditional owners of the land we are now on. We pay our respect to their elders, past and present. We also acknowledge those people who have contributed to the rich fabric of our community and strive to make wise decisions that will improve the quality of life for all. Item 3 is confirmation of minutes from the Ordinary Council meeting 2nd of August 2022. Recommendations moved by Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Prime. Any comments?
No comment.
Questions? All those in favour? It's carried. Item 4 is apologies, and there are none. Item 5, obituaries and congratulations, and I'll start from my left with Councillor Keeble.
Thanks, Mayor Nicholas. Some congratulations to the Kiewa Valley community on the last weekend with the Hoppet Committee, Burkabana Nordic Ski Club with the running of the 30th Hoppet. It's an international cross-country ski race, well supported by local businesses and communities. And they had a lot more entrants than they thought, considering the last 2 years. So congratulations to them. It was a cracking day. If you're up there on the Saturday, there was hardly a breath of wind. Another congratulations would be, oh, not congratulations, this is more of a statement, is just a shout out to our ex-mayor and councillor Daryl Pearce, who is having some surgery. And we send him all our best wishes.
Thank you. Councillor Prime.
Thank you very much. I'll continue on with the sporting theme. Just a quick shout out and congratulations to the Derang Mount Beauty Football Club. The seniors lost on the weekend, but they made it into the finals, and the reserves got beaten the previous week. But it's probably been a rough close to a decade to the club since recovering from having some good times and then being on a bit of a downer for a while. So the boys did really well. Speaking of Hoppet, I'll do a quick shout out to Phil Bellingham, who I believe skied the 42Ks on the Saturday and played footy on the Sunday last weekend.
And was exhausted at work on Monday.
So, no, well done to the boys. It's we didn't make the grand final, but the club's on the up, so it was great to see.
Thank you, Councillor Prime. Councillor Janus.
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. I had the privilege of attending the 10th anniversary of the L2P driver program in Myrtleford the other day, and it's a program run by the TAC and the Department of Transport, and it's hosted by the Alpine Shire Council. So in the 10 years, we've been able to put out 128 new drivers on the road who have been expertly taught by volunteers, a trusty band of volunteers within our community. And I'd call on any other people who had some spare time to help teach our young people how to drive safely on our roads to come forward through council, if they so wish, to keep this program going. It's an essential thing for our young people here who don't all have a mum and dad or a bigger brother or sister to help them get the hours up to drive a car safely. We've got 3 cars available through the valleys, Myrtleford, Bright and Mount Beauty, and we have sponsors that assist in keeping that funding going, and, the community banks, TAC, Alpine Shire, the Rotary clubs, the Lions clubs, and a car wash as well. So they're all sponsors to the program. It's a worthwhile program, and I just wanted to give them a little bit of helping hand to get some more volunteers as well. But it is a fantastic program, and I want to thank all those volunteers who put their time and effort into teaching our young people on the roads. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Janus. Councillor Hughes.
Congratulations to everyone in the United Bright Football Netball Club who have made it into finals as well. I know that we've still got some finals to go, so the chance is there that they may get into the grand final. Anyone who's not involved in netball and football, as an example, we've had a seniors player who's played over 300 games in seniors for Bright and hasn't won a premiership yet. So it is really a big effort and a big team effort at that. So congratulations going forward and good luck to them on the weekend coming. And hopefully we can get them into the grand final. But also a big shout out to the under 12s Paulpunka Panthers baseball team who did make it to the grand final and played on the Sunday just gone. Unfortunately fell down short by 2, but it was a ripper game played by both teams, and the support of the wider community of the Panthers was just amazing. It's an early start, and with 3 little boys of my own in that team, it was really nice to have all of the community and the faces there to support. So congratulations to everybody involved that made the season work to date.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. Just shout out congratulations to the Victorian Backcountry Festival for this year. 2022 was held last weekend. A really great program focused on educating folk on how to safely enjoy the alpine environment, crossing from avalanches right through to even the bushfire hazard or risk that is prevalent in our backcountry areas. So 100% volunteer organised, so congratulations to them.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thanks, Mayor. Just on a sadder note, I'd like to note the passing of Alan Johnson in Myrtleford a week ago. Alan was an active member of the Rec Reserve Committee in Myrtleford, and somebody toted it up, and he'd been active for 70 years in that situation. He'd been the president for probably about 25 or 30 of those years. So, yeah, just noting the passing of Alan. Thanks.
Thank you. And the only thing I had was to talk about the L2P program, because it's had a very strong driver behind that program, and the pun was intended in a certain councillor here. So thank you very much, Councillor Janus, for all you've done to make that happen over the years. And also wanted to say there were 5, I think, new members trained this Saturday, new mentors for the program. So it is growing, and it is a terrific opportunity for young people, and there's somebody in this room who went through the program, I believe. And anyway, it is a great way to get people safely driving on the roads. The next item is declarations by councillors of conflict of interest. There have been none so far, but should a councillor think that they have a conflict any time during the night, please declare it. Item 7, public questions. Questions on notice are generally limited to 2 questions per person. They can be on notice written or from the floor. I'm going to start with 5 questions that we have that have been written and then see if there are any further from the floor. First question, I'll do them in the order in which they were received. The first question is from the Upper Kiewa Valley Community Association, Mary Pike. Thank you, Mary. It's about public amenities in Toowoomba South. And the question is, what progress, if any, has been made towards the installation of public amenities in the Toowoomba South business section. This request has been with council for a few years, but this year has raised the issue again as the traffic through the area has been much increased on previous years. Thanks, Mary, and I will ask our CEO, Mr Will Jeremy, to answer that question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mary, for the question. So, Council continues to explore opportunities to establish public amenities in Toowoomba South. Some of the conversations that Council officers have on behalf of Council are considered confidential. So even though the counterparty to those discussions might have shared details with the community, Council officers and Council are not in a position to share those details. As soon as Council is in a position, then of course we will share that information with the public. One other thing to notice in respect to this question is the implementation of a speed change in Toowoomba South, which I understand has been well received and has, I think, contributed to an improvement in safety through the commercial strip in Toowoomba South.
Thank you, Mr Jeremy. The next 4 questions all relate to item 8.2.2, the draft Alpine Better Places Toowoomba project item that's on the agenda tonight, where the councillors will be considering and voting on whether to put the proposal out into public exhibition. So question 2 comes from Matthew Ryder, and the question goes like this. The report by council staff regarding the crossing in front of the Toowoomba store has not been listed as community feedback, even though the petition I organised had 171 signatories objecting to a crossing sited immediately in front of the store. Elaine Burridge's email suggests that you will consider changes depending on the extent of support. I wish to know how many signatures I require on a petition to demonstrate that a crossing in front of the store is not the correct place either for the business or the locals. And Ms Burridge will respond to that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So Council's not seeking a petition as part of the process. However, Council will be seeking participation through a survey that will be running through the public exhibition process, which is the next phase of consultation, and one of the recommendations that we'll be making of the Council report to Council tonight. So community participation in a survey is key.
Question 3 is from Mark Redmond. And the question is here. In an email sent to Toowoomba District Community Association by Ms Elaine Burridge, Acting Director Assets, dated Wednesday 31st of August 2022, titled Alpine Better Places Toowoomba, was the advice that Council officers will be working on the premise of a one person, one vote when assessing feedback received through the submission process of community consultation on the Alpine Better Places Toowoomba final draft concept plans, consistent with the approach being taken with the Alpine Better Places Harrietville project. At this stage in the process, and following the extensive engagement already carried out, Council will be assessing the extent of support demonstrated for any requested change when considered against the size of the Toowoomba community. Silence on any particular issue from a large proportion of the local community will be taken as an indication of support for the plans as currently presented. Can Council please confirm that it is Council's consistent standard across all community projects for 1, one person, one vote, and 2, silence on any particular issue from a large proportion of the local community will be taken as an indication of support? Can Council please advise specific parameters of what is meant by one person, one vote and a large proportion of the community? For example, postcode boundaries, age groups, percentages, etc.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the community group participation in the process so far, and community groups' participation through all things that we do here at Council. So the one person, one vote and silence is taken as an indication of general support, and it is now standard practice for Council when surveying communities on key issues and projects. This supports an equitable approach, recognising that not all members of the community are motivated to share support for a project, and ensuring that the voices of all community members are given equal weight. This approach ensures that surveys with low response numbers are compared with overall census population data of a community and weighted accordingly. We collect locational data such as postcodes and or addresses when we survey community members to ensure respondents either live in, own a property in or work in the relevant community, and that will be done through the survey that we're undertaking through the exhibition process.
Thank you. Question 4 is from Team Toowoomba. On the 19th of May 2022, the Toowoomba community was invited by the Alpine Shire to attend a meeting convened to place MDG's second concept plan out for public information on the Alpine Better Places Toowoomba project. The meeting was attended by Councillor Prime and Alan Rees, representing the Alpine Shire, and Andrew from MDG. As reported in the Alpine Observer on the 25th of May 2022, the meeting embraced the idea of a historical building and the pump track for Pioneer Park. Can Council please explain why the concept plan which is to be adopted tonight shows a pump track but not a historical building? And again, Ms Burridge will provide an answer.
Madam Mayor. So Council ran a community consultation period to determine community support for different options for the Scout Hall site from early May. This consultation period closed on Thursday the 26th of May. The consultation included the community meeting mentioned in the question, which was on the 19th of May, as well as an online survey. The commentary reported in the Alpine Observer, which was published on the 25th of May, was written prior to the closure of the survey period and before online survey results were compiled or published by Council. The survey received 280 responses, with results showing that 49.6% of respondents supported a pump track, 32.1% of respondents supported a new community building with upgraded car parking and vehicle access, and through the commentary, not the total, supported a museum. The survey responses inform the current draft designs, which will be available through the public exhibition process for community feedback.
Thank you, Ms Burridge. The last question is from Sue Ryder. Dr Helen Haynes, member for Indi, forwards on a regular basis her newsletter, Indi Cockatoo. Her current newsletter speaks of her wish list for funding throughout her electorate. The Alpine Observer of the 31st of August 2022 also presents an article about Dr Haynes's request for funding for the Indi electorate. Both items mention $3.5 million for upgrades at Toowoomba. An examination of Dr Haynes's statement shows Alpine Better Places Toowoomba. This project will deliver new and upgraded infrastructure across the Toowoomba CBD and Pioneer Memorial Park, including vibrant play spaces for the local community and visitors, safer pedestrian connections through the CBD and upgraded community facilities. A key feature of the upgrade will be a new public display facility showcasing the history of the area from the First Nations through to the more recent settlers. This well-supported project will deliver a sense of destination for the Toowoomba Township, encouraging passing traffic to stop and enjoy a revitalised and connected town. The project will aid social and economic recovery and resilience after the Black Summer bushfires and subsequent impact of the COVID pandemic. Total project costs $3.5 million, Commonwealth contribution $3.5 million. Portfolio, tourism, community infrastructure and bushfire recovery. Can Council please explain why they have made application to Dr Haynes for funding for a display facility showcasing the history of the area from the First Nations through to the more recent settlers, and why this item does not appear on the Toowoomba Alpine Better Places concept plan being put to Council tonight? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So it's important, Dr Haynes and other politicians will quite often come to Council looking for projects where we may be seeking funding into the future. So we were invited by Dr Haynes to submit projects to her bid to the federal budget. This was quite some time ago, and as options for the Toowoomba Alpine Better Places project were being explored. It doesn't mean to say that the site doesn't lean itself towards development into the future, but as I've mentioned earlier, there was, through consultation, support for a pump track as opposed to the building of a facility. Thank you.
That brings me to the end of the questions, but I just wanted to comment on the really good interest from the Toowoomba area with the multiple questions, and we've also had a range of emails during the day, both supportive of the current plan and with constructive criticism. And to me, that influence that indicates the importance of the project as a future-making project, but also it indicates how important community groups are and how strongly they support their communities and have ideas and also communicate into their communities. So I'd encourage people to make a submission that identifies what they would like to see in the plan, where the crossing should be, or to talk about the museum or a building as part of the process. If Councillor Tedart does actually vote to put the plan out for consultation. So thank you again very much for input. And I will, thank you, would also now like to now call for questions from the floor. If you have a question, yes, please step up and state your name. You might need to turn the mic on. Beautiful.
Check one. Thank you. My name's Glenn Wilson. I'm a Toowoomba South resident, ratepayer and lessee at the Mount Beauty Aerodrome. I found this on the Alpine Shire Council's website yesterday, and it says, our values accountable. We are accountable and responsible for our decisions and actions and the impacts on these on our community and the organisation. And integrity, we have integrity by being committed, truthful, transparent in our decision making and our interactions with our community and the organisation. I've put 2 questions to Alpine Shire Council and quite some time ago, and I still haven't got answers to them. And I'll read those questions out to you and see if I can maybe get some answers tonight. The first question was, is Alpine Shire Council legally responsible for the operation of Mount Beauty Airport, or is the Mount Beauty Airport Management Association legally responsible for the operation of the airport? Now, I've got ambiguous answers. They didn't answer the question, and they don't pass the integrity test. So is there an answer to that?
I will ask our Hevercroft to answer that. Mr Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr Wilson. It's lovely to put name to a face. So I understand that those questions are currently with the Ombudsman, and so we're working through the answers and we'll share them back through the Ombudsman. We've got a deadline of the 12th of September to provide those responses, and hopefully then they'll come straight to you after that.
It's a shame it took the Ombudsman to get an answer. The second question was, and I asked this on the 12th of August, and I've asked it twice and I haven't even received an acknowledgement from Alpine Shire Council. And that question was, could you provide me with a copy of the business case and a copy of the cost-benefit analysis that were developed to justify the upgrade of the Mount Beauty Airport?
I haven't seen the question.
Sorry, just to confirm, I don't have knowledge of the request.
No, doesn't sound like anybody's got the question. I'll ask.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Glenn, for that question. I'll have to take that one on notice. I'm not aware of the question that's been received by Council, and it appears that neither is Helen Havercroft as the Director for that area.
I did ring up last week and I was given, when I finally asked, a customer reference number for that, for both those questions, for both my emails, and that still hasn't gone through the system. Is that right?
I'm unable to comment because I'm not aware of the request, but however, we will take it on notice and we will get back to you. We'll track down this request that's come in.
Okay. You are involved in the funding application. Can you cast your mind back to that time? Was there a business case prepared?
Thank you, Mr Wilson. I can advise that I was out of the country for the time that the funding application was prepared. I had no involvement in that funding application, so unfortunately I don't know the answer to your question. However, I will take on notice your question. We'll check the system and we'll understand where that information is sitting at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Will you be responding by email?
I will be responding by email, yes.
Okay, thanks. Now, I'd like to make a brief statement. The Mount Beauty Airport and its management and the current upgrade are an absolute debacle. And this has been pointed out several times to Council, but Council doesn't really want to know about it. It was an unjustified thought bubble that seemed more about personal glory and than prudent spending of millions of dollars of public money and ratepayers' monies.
Mr Wilson, thank you very much.
I haven't finished yet. There was no business case for the upgrade. There was no cost-benefit analysis for the upgrade. There was no real community
Mr Wilson,
consultation.
we don't take statements from the floor, I'm sorry. So thank you very much.
Why not?
because it's not the process of the meeting. Thank you. It's question time. We've had questions. It's not statement time. If you'd like to put it into an email or write it to us, that's fine. Thank you.
I don't think that's a fair and reasonable response, and you're not showing integrity, honesty or transparency.
You can think that as you choose. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Further questions from the floor?
Could you, at Toowoomba. My question is, with the redevelopment at the hall, where we're having car park spaces will be lost, and where the toilet block will be being placed, toilet block and showers, and with more car parks being put up near the toilet block in the park, is it be more reasonable to have the crossing moved from where it's been planned at the moment in front of the store, to move the crossing right in front of the hall, where it would be easier access for people when they're parking, they walk down, cross to the hall?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. That's great feedback, and could I request that you provide that feedback through the survey when it's presented? That allows us then to record that and capture it against any other feedback we receive through that process. But yeah, I appreciate your feedback. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Further questions from the floor? No. Thank you. We'll move on to item 8, presentation of reports by officers, starting with 8.1, Chief Executive Officer with Mr Jeremy. 8.1.1, contracts approved by the CEO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the recommendation tonight is that the contracts approved by the CEO be noted. So there's one contract tonight, which is the curb and channel works in Deakin Avenue, Bright. Tender.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Forsyth, seconded by Councillor Prime. Councillor Forsyth.
No comment.
Councillor Prime. Anybody else have a comment? No. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. And now we move on to 8.2, Acting Director of Assets, Elaine Burridge. 8.2.1, Sport and Active Recreation Master Planning. Thank you, Ms Burridge.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this report relates to the award of a contract to undertake the Sport and Active Recreation Master Planning of Pioneer Park in Bright, Mount Beauty Sports and Education Precinct and the Myrtleford Township. A bit of background on this one. So a Sports and Active Recreation Plan was adopted by Council in March 2022. Through the development of this plan, 3 key community locations have been identified as a medium to high priority for master planning to ensure that they meet the existing and future needs of the community. And as mentioned before, those locations are Pioneer Park in Bright, Mount Beauty Sports and Education Precinct in Mount Beauty, and Myrtleford Town's Centre Sport and Active Recreation Facilities. So Council will engage with the Department of Education and Training to seek alignment during the master planning of the Mount Beauty Sports and Education Precinct. There's no financial implications for Council on this one. This project is fully funded by Bushfire Recovery Victoria, and the recommendation is that Council awards contract number 2113-701, Sport and Active Recreation Master Planning to Group GSA for $226,300 GST exclusive.
Moved by Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Kelly. Councillor Hughes.
It's great that we've got some funding to kick off the Sport and Active Recreation Planning. Just out of curiosity, with the fact that we've got funding to start this off with these 3 major projects, if the funding wasn't available, what would be the time frame on something like this have actually started in a normal process?
So essentially this project will go into a project pipeline and be prioritised through the budgeting process and with Council's agreement to proceed with the project at some point in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms Burridge, just one question. In simple terms, the plan that was adopted earlier in this calendar year, what does the master plan, or how does it build on that? What's the sort of difference between those? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. So essentially feedback that has been provided by the community, and there was great engagement through the process of developing the Sports and Rec plan. That will be considered as part of this master planning process going forward. So that feedback will be incorporated into the master planning process.
Councillor Keeble.
Thanks, Mayor Nicholas. $226,300. I can see people in the gallery and out in the wider world going, wow, that's, I'd like to run that plan myself. So this plan is about getting these projects shovel ready for grant funding to that level. And I guess the question really is why that much, and what's the breakdown of the grants and what they're paying? Please.
Oh, sorry. So the first part, sorry, could you just repeat the first part of the question, Councillor Keeble?
The question was, you're testing my memory?
Yeah,
It's quite a lot of money. It's quite a lot of money.
Yeah, it's quite a lot of money. I guess the breakdown of that.
The shovel-ready aspect.
Oh, shovel-ready.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yep.
Is that why it's costing so much? Because it'll get to that point so we can use it for funding?
Yeah, so essentially developing a plan like this will actually put us into a position to be able to go for funding as funding opportunities come up. It doesn't necessarily, it depends on what projects come out of this master planning. It won't necessarily mean that they're shovel-ready as such, but it will definitely place us along the path of delivery of the project and in a good position for funding opportunities.
And how much of the 226 is funded by us or grant funding?
The full amount, the full project is funded by Bushfire Recovery Victoria. Yep.
Madam Mayor, through you, Madam Mayor, if I could just clarify the process. So through the master planning process, there are a number of very large sport and rec projects that are likely to be appearing on the plans. For example, replacement, renewal of our swimming pools, maybe a second oval in Pioneer Park. So we're working very closely with Sport and Rec Victoria, who are one of the key funding bodies for these kind of works. And we're following a very logical process that will allow us to get to the point where we can convince Sport and Rec Victoria to release funds. So we've done the work on the active Sport and Rec plan. The next stage is master planning, and this leads through progressive stages of detail to get us to the point where we can submit an application. So it does seem like a lot of money, but there's quite a lot of work involved in pulling these plans together to make sure that they're robust. We've engaged thoroughly across the community, and we've got a real sense of buy-in before we move forward to more detailed stages of the project.
Thank you, Mr Jeremy. Any further questions, comments? Mr Forsyth. Councillor Forsyth.
With the master planning, how far into the future does this look for predictive population basis and what have you? Any idea?
No, I'd have to... Miss.
Thank you, Councillor Forsyth. So the work that the team has been doing has been in very close engagement with the work that the strategic planning officers have been doing. So the timeframes are very closely related, so that when we end up with an outcome through, for example, the land development strategy, we're also looking at how that will impact on our sport and rec planning into the future. So that team's working very closely together to make sure the work's aligned.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Take this recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried. Thank you. And now the item we've all been waiting for, 8.2.2, Draft Alpine Better Places Toowoomba Concept Plans.
I'm just finding my position. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this report relates to the public exhibition of the Draft Alpine Better Places Toowoomba Concept Plans. So a little bit of background, the Alpine Better Places Toowoomba project commenced back in 2020. The plans were developed to focus on two key areas identified in the community in Phase 1 consultation, those being create a centralised focus or heart to the township in Pioneer Park and to improve the circulation and safety for pedestrians. So the journey, there were three community consultation sessions that occurred between July 2020 and July 2021 to gather feedback and ideas from the community to help with the development of plans for the area. The project was paused in August 2021, pending the Scout Hall being acquired by Council. The project restarted in March 2022. 4 draft concept plans for the site were developed, and this included feedback received from the earlier consultation sessions. They were presented through 2 further community consultation sessions during April and May this year. Also in May, a far-reaching communications plan was rolled out, which encouraged community to view the plans and participate in a survey to provide preferencing of works to be developed from the plans. There was strong response from the community, with 280 surveys in total being completed. So some issues. Feedback received on the concept designs to date has focused on items in the following key areas: pedestrian circulation and crossing points on the Kiewa Valley Highway, car parking on the Kiewa Valley Highway adjacent to the old Tawonga store, and playground, shade trees and natural elements. During consultation with the community, in particular parents with young children, it was identified that pedestrians were most likely to cross the Kiewa Valley Highway at the old Tawonga store, which provides the shortest and most direct route into Pioneer Park. Therefore, the pedestrian crossing point has been located in this location. Financial and resource implications. There's no financial or resource implications associated with the public exhibition of the draft Alpine Better Places Tawonga concept plans, and Council will investigate funding opportunities to progress the project through to detailed design and construction into the future. And the recommendations are as provided in the report.
Yeah, thanks.
Sorry. You can tell I've got my learner plates on.
Okay, beautiful.
And there they are.
Moved by Councillor Prime. Seconded by Councillor Keeble. Councillor Prime.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am Tawonga born and raised, and I have many memories of this area, learning to play tennis there. And if Mum was feeling generous, we'd get an icy pole at the store afterwards, depending on if we'd behaved ourselves. We'd missed out a lot. So the keen community interest in this has been fantastic. Tawonga is a small town, and it's been great. And this has been going back to July 2020. So this has been going on for a while. Slight pause there while the Scout Hall became included in the plans, which was just the best thing to do there, to stop and take that on board. 280 survey responses, I think Ms Burridge mentioned before, which just goes to show how keen the community interest is. Just reiterating that this is a draft which will go out for exhibition of 28 days. And we will review and consider any submissions made. So my encouragement is to go over it again, have a good look. I know there's a few issues in here that people have concerns with. I've had emails today as well in support of the plans, but just critiquing maybe a few areas of it, or just generally in support of the plan. It's just great to have the feedback from the community. I know everyone's really invested in this. Tawonga is growing. There's new houses going up, there's young families there, there's a real big mix of people. There's new people to the area, there's people who've grown up in the area. So I'll just be doing my best to encourage people to have a good peruse of these plans, put forward their opinions and what they like, what they don't like, and go from there.
Thank you, Councillor Prime. Councillor Keeble.
Wonderful. The Alpine Better Places program's been around for a little while. Maybe 2015 started, I can't remember. It's been going for a little while, and it was the first towns off the rank were Mount Beauty, Bright, Myrtleford, then Porepunkah, and now there's the Harriettville and the Tawonga ones. So we're sort of slowly making our way through the towns. There's certainly been a lot of conversations, both in the public arena and both in briefing sessions. So there's been lots of discussions. I note that Ms Burridge was talking about, there was a point in the document here about during consultation with the community, in particular parents with young children, it was identified that pedestrians were more likely to cross Kiewa Valley Highway at the old Tawonga store. Now, those particular, if I've got my dates right, those particular conversations happened before the sale of the old Scout Hall. And so at that stage, there wasn't that notion of, perhaps the stone wall that's there, closing off the stone wall so there's no entrance there, and rerouting the path through the park down to a different crossing point. So, as Councillor Prime has said, in here, invite public submissions and we will review and consider. So take those things on notice, let people know. Personally, I probably see the crossing at a different point. I agree with what you're saying. And so my only advice is get out there and get people to submit formally in the next 28 days.
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Any other comments? Thank you, Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one question, just a reminder, the Scout Hall acquisition, what was the cost of that acquisition and the source of funds? Can anyone refresh me on that?
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. From recollection, $350,000, and that was from council funds.
Thanks, Mr. Jeremy.
Anyone else? Comment, questions? Councillor Prime, any? Oh, in right of reply? Okay, we'll take that one to the vote then. Recommendation as it stands. All those in favour? That will be carried. Next section is section 8.3, our Director of Corporate Performance, Mrs Helen Havercroft. 8.3.1, Audit and Risk Committee meeting minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. So this report is just for councillors to receive and to note the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee. That meeting was held on the 22nd of July and had three principal matters to discuss. One was the interim management letter from our auditors and the VARGO audit strategy update, which set out some key focuses for the year, which now that we're reaching the pointy end of the financial statements, I can say were a key focus for the auditors for the year. I think the substantive matter for the meeting that was discussed related to playground maintenance and the audit that's been undertaken and the defects that have been identified in the schedule of works that were due to take place to address those matters. And there was a deferral of the climate change risks because both myself and the sustainability coordinator was unable to attend the meeting. So this evening the recommendation is that Council receives and notes the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting from the 22nd of July 2022.
Councillor Kelly moved. Councillor Prime has seconded. Councillor Kelly.
No matters to raise. Thanks, Mayor.
Councillor Prime.
None from me, sorry.
Anybody else like to make comment or ask a question? No? All those in favour of the recommendation? It's passed. Item 8.3.2, reappointment of Independent Audit and Risk Committee member. Ms Havercroft.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. So this relates to the aforementioned Audit and Risk Committee. We have a member of our independent member who has reached the end of his initial 3-year term. He has requested that he be reappointed and that this is the recommendation that Council reappoints Craig Kovich to the Audit and Risk Committee for 3-year term.
Moved Councillor Forsyth, seconded Councillor Keeble. Councillor Forsyth.
I just want to say that Craig Kovich is a very welcome member of the Audit and Risk Committee. I worked with him a couple of years ago. Very knowledgeable. He comes from Sydney, and it's great to have somebody from the other side of the border sitting on our Audit and Risk Committee looking at things from another way, and he actually works within a council himself. So it's good to see. Much larger council than ours, by the way.
Thank you. Councillor Keeble.
No, other than to say it's really important to have the independent, appointees on this panel, and it's good to see that we have a cohort on there. So it's great. They do a fantastic job.
Thank you. I'll take the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 8.3.3 Community Satisfaction Survey 2022.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. So the Community Satisfaction Survey was a survey undertaken earlier this year for 400 residents were contacted by telephone. They're specifically selected to meet the broad demographics as selected by the Australian Bureau of Statistics to match the Alpine Shire cohort that we have as residents. And from that, they weight the answers and come up with an index score of how we're doing against a range of points. So our overall performance is 59, which is a slight dip on last year. But I wanted this evening just to focus on our top performing areas and the areas that we intend as officers to take forward as our key focuses and the areas that we want to focus on in the coming period. So our top performing areas, and these are routinely very good year on year. Sealed local roads, council index score of 61, remaining significantly higher than both small, rural and statewide averages of 50 and 53, so really much higher. And value for money, as a measure that was only introduced in 2021, but our council's index score is 56, which is again significantly higher than both small, rural and statewide averages. Overall council direction, the council's index of 53 is significantly higher than the statewide average of 50. So that tells the good story, but there were some areas where we've seen a dip, and the most obvious one of those in the scores was in our customer service space. We can speculate that there's many reasons for that, but what we take is it has dipped, and so as a group of officers we're taking forward a sort of short and medium term process of trying to understand what the reasons for that might be and to provide a better consistency of our customer service. But this really flagged the size of the challenge that we might have ahead of us. So customer service, our customers index score was 63, which was significantly lower than the small, rural and statewide averages, and also lower than 70, which is what we received in 2021. And then some detail. Residents in the lower ovens had significantly less contact with council than the Alpine average, just for interest. And residents aged 35 to 49 had significantly more contact with council at 73% than the Alpine average. The appendices to the report has got the full report in it, and there's a lot of detail about how that makeup of our community has its interactions with council. So I don't know, if you're interested, have a good read. It's pretty good. So yeah, our areas of focus are going to be the customer service space, a piece around our community decisions. We asked 2 open questions this year, unlike last year, and those were, what are we doing well and what should we focus on? And one of the things that people asked in the what could we focus on was, could we treat all areas the same and have better or different community consultation? We don't have any more details than that. It was just a free-form answer, but we will look into how we're making those community decisions and focus on our consultation and engagement. So this evening, the recommendation is that council notes the 2022 community satisfaction survey.
Councillor Forsyth, and seconded by Councillor Hughes. Councillor Forsyth.
Thanks, Mayor. Quick question for Ms Havercroft. Would it be fair or reasonable for councillors to assume that the customer service number should increase now that we've actually put in place a much better CRM or customer request management system?
Thank you, Councillor Forsyth. I think it's a really interesting question. So what their CRM has provided us is with an opportunity to see the total of the, well, hopefully a better understanding of the total number of customer requests that we get from various different ranges rather than just into customer service. Councillors know themselves are often saying, could you just pop that into the CRM system? So we try to get them from all angles. What that has shown is that we've got some pinch points where we're clearly falling down from a customer service perspective. We're not responding in time, and when we are, we're not giving adequate responses. But having visibility of that means that we can do something about it, whereas previously we didn't have oversight of that. So that doesn't answer the question of should the system increase the score, but it does allow us areas that we can focus on to try and make some improvements. What I can't guarantee is that if we completely nailed our CRM system, it would translate into an improvement in our customer survey score, because there's so many different ways that people interact with council, and what makes one person very happy might not make the next person very happy in that.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that a technology fix is just a simple way around it. If we did that, we'd just have robots. The other part of that question, I suppose, and I know it's a statewide problem, just in this, the decrease, is that, were most of those customer service decreases relating to planning issues or not? Did you have a breakdown of where they were?
Thank you, Councillor Forsyth. No, the detail for that indices is not, you won't find any more detail about why in the background. The only reflection I can make is that when we asked people, what are we doing well? They said customer service. And when they said, what should we focus on? They said customer service. So there probably is some, but they didn't say why. It didn't provide that opportunity, but there is some underlying what one person thinks is good is So I don't want to speculate. We know that we've had planning delays. We know that we're under-resourced at the moment. Everybody would like some planners in their councils. And so that may be one, but there will be other reasons as well, I'm sure, of why people are receiving what they believe is a substandard customer service.
Thank you. Councillor Hughes.
It's great that we can, undertake these types of surveys. From an operational point of view, are there any surprises that came out of it that you didn't expect to see?
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. I'm never surprised by who knows what could have come out, but I think probably people were a little bit disappointed by the customer survey score, if I'm honest. We understood that making people use a system which feels alien to them at the start, might have created some issues. It certainly has from an internal perspective, trying to get our own teams to understand how to use it and to use it properly. But we thought that the transformation from one thing to another might have helped people have better contact with us. So we realised that we're probably at the start of that journey and not quite so far down as we believed, and that's okay, and this might be a reflection of that. I think in previous years when we've seen gradual increases, we've put it down to digital transformation in some ways and built stories around that, which have been perfect. But maybe this is highlighting that technology might create robots. It's not the answer, it's just part of a matrix of things that have to work well to help people.
And my other question to that is, obviously 400 people is a very, very small percentage of our population here in the Alpine Shire. Do we have any idea how many people were actually contacted with the uptake of those 400 people?
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. I'd have to take that on notice. I don't know if that detail is in the full report, but we can probably find. So that's how many calls did they have to make to get to the 400? How many people said no? I don't know the answer to that question, sorry.
Yeah, I'm just interested to know that answer because, a lot of the time when people say yes to these things, it's because generally they've got something to say. So it could be, it's great that we can capture such information, but it really could be that, it's 400 people that actually have a bee in their bonnet on something as opposed to people who don't. So it's great that we can capture it and, focus where our challenges may be and being able to represent that out to the community, but just to keep that in mind that it is a very small proportion of the wider community, and I think for operational staff as well to note that too.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes.
Councillor Prime and then Councillor Keeble.
Yeah, just a comment from me. Interesting where it says here, all areas be treated the same was a request. It was interesting when I first got on council, everyone says Bright gets all the attention, and then spoke to someone in Bright one day and they're like, Myrtleford gets all the attention. So it is a little bit about perspective. And it's interesting to note here, we don't have wards in this council, so every councillor could come from Bright if that's the way that it was elected, if that's how it happened. A lot of other councils have specific areas where people run for council. So, but we're very spread out here. We've got opinions coming here from all over the council, from my end of the Kiewa Valley down to Myrtleford and Buffalo River direction up here in Bright. So I think it's good to note that we've got a broad range of perspectives from all over the Shire here. But yes, we do hear quite often that Bright does get the attention, but depends what's going on.
Councillor Keeble.
Really, thanks, Mayor Nicholas. Question, do we have to do this and how much does it cost?
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. No, we don't have to do this, but there's a but to that. And it costs between $9,000 and $11,000 to undertake. I give a range because it helps answer the first question. So the first part of the question is we have to do LGPRF performance reporting annually, and this survey covers off 3 of the questions that would otherwise we would have to find another mechanism to go out to 400 people and to get those responses. So this is a neat way of responding to our state responsibilities for reporting. And the range is because in 2021 we didn't have any of the additional optional questions included, so it was about $9,000 and a bit. And this year we chose to have the 2 optional additional questions. There's a range of optional additional questions that you can have. They all come with a price tag, and we chose 2. What are we doing really well? What areas would you like us to focus on as to see if we got richer data this year?
No, thanks for that. And look, I look at the feedback, and it is good feedback. You can always split data many different ways, but it is good to get an overall view. And if the questions are very similar from year to year, which they are, it gives us a good trend. I will say that, when you look at this data and you look at what's in here and you look at what's on, in the agenda today, what the public see in these meetings is a very small percentage of what the council actually does. And, looking at that, the data, you would say that the council officers, and staff are working really hard towards what they need, their jobs and what they do. So it's a credit to them because it hasn't been easy the last few years. And, I just want to make a point that, not of it, we see 1% here, on these meetings. There's many other good things that are happening. So I just want to make that point. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. I was minded to something similar to Councillor Keeble. When you go to a restaurant or somewhere else at the moment, you'll often see the sign saying, the whole world is short-staffed. Thank those that showed up today. And it's kind of in that vein where I think, I'd encourage all organisations at the moment to be pretty focused on the morale and supporting their employees. There's been a range of reasons in our shire why it's been a demanding period, and I would look at this as, my urge is don't let it take the wind out of your sails. There's some good results here, and there's some good commitment to continuous improvement. So similar to Councillor Keeble, that don't let some of the lower numbers detract from the goals that we have.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly.
Anybody else? Any comments or questions? Councillor Forsyth didn't answer. We'll take those recommendations to the vote then. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 8.3.4 Governance Rules.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is a routine update to our governance rules as part of our policy to renew and refresh our policies as required, but came at an opportune time. So during the pandemic, the state government put in place some temporary measures to permit us to have meetings in a online environment and to close our public gallery as long as we were streaming live on whichever platform we chose. So we've been undertaking that. Those temporary measures were repealed on the 2nd of September. So we're all in person today because we are unable to take hybrid meetings or electronic meetings until the governance rules have been updated. So this is a broad update to the governance rules annually. So we do them when Maddox have updated their templates. So there are some other changes other than the hybrid stuff, which I will go over. But broadly, the governance rule changes facilitate us being able to undertake hybrid meetings in the future. I say in the future because we're yet to test the technology fully. We've either been in person or completely online. We haven't taken that step of hybrid. We might test it next council meeting, I understand, but we're taking baby steps down that process. But we don't want to have to update the governance rules again once the tech's in, so we're taking that opportunity now. The other things that have been amended as part of the updates is the election of the mayor is now done by absolute majority. And the electronic attendance. There's been some small updates to the conflict of interest areas. There's been updates to the petitions to say that we can take electronic petitions. They don't need to all be on paper. There is an update to how question time works when we're holding meetings electronically, and that's laced through the governance rules where we've made changes to it said in person, they become electronic as well. And then there's some miscellaneous updates to speaking to a motion and the chair standing aside if they wish to take part in a debate. So the recommendation this evening is that we revoke the previous governance rules and we adopt the governance, and the council adopts the governance rules version 2, signs and seals those governance rules at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Do I have a seconder? No. Councillor Kelly, thank you very much. Councillor Keeble.
There have been good conversations on these governance rules. I'm just wondering whether my face will show up on that screen. Just for noting, I'm around for 2 more weeks before I need to get into the field. So if whoever's organising it, I need to have the information on my computer before I leave. And I think, it's fair and reasonable in regards to the mayoral vote, although, it was kind of nice having the option of the hat. But anyway, the one tradition has now gone. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Councillor Kelly? No. Has anybody got comments, questions, clarifications? No. Take the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? Will be carried. 8.3.5 Public Interest Disclosures Policy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a routine review of our public interest disclosures policy. It flagged at the time that the review was undertaken that we hadn't updated my details on our website from a previous Director of Corporate, so that has taken place. But other than that, we've updated references to the correct Local Government Act and made grammatical changes. There is no substantive changes to how people should make a public interest disclosure and how council, councillors and officers would treat those public disclosure confidential and everything that goes with it. So that there's been no changes to the actual policy. So the recommendation this evening is that Council revokes the Protected Disclosure Policy and then adopts the Protected Disclosure Policy number 92 version 4 this evening, signs the seals at the appropriate time.
Moved by Councillor Hughes and seconded by Councillor Janus. Councillor Hughes?
No, nothing to add.
Nothing. Councillor Janus? Nothing to add? Any questions or comments? No. We'll take the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? Beauty. 8.3.6. Approval in principle financial statements and performance statement for this last financial year.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. So this report is to present the draft financial statements and performance statement for the year ended 30th of June 2022 for review and to seek approval in principle. We take the opportunity to bring this early so that there is a month, hopefully, for us to make any small changes between the auditor and the officers within council and to take any further comments from our managers about the commentary that might sit within the financial statements and the performance statements. So we've now received commentary from the auditors, and we've also received commentary from the Audit and Risk Committee this morning that they're comfortable for these to be passed to council to approve in principle. Some of the highlights that people will be able to see once they've been adopted in due course is that we're currently forecasting an operating surplus of 10.1 million, which is 3.5 higher than we budgeted at the beginning of the 21-22 year. So there's some principal reasons for that, and some of those are accounting standard reasons, and some of that is as a result that we received our operating grants early. So they're called our federal assistance grants. We usually receive a good chunk of them quite early in the year. This year we received 75% of them, and it appears to skew our income figures slightly, so that they're sitting as yet not spent. So that makes our surplus look larger than it has in previous years from that perspective. And we're also carrying significant grants for capital works. Some of those get capitalised once the projects have been completed, but there has been more work in progress at the year end than we had hoped, given the scale of the capital works programmes that we're undertaking last year and this year again. So we're holding some working in progress income as well. That's broadly why those numbers are so big from an income perspective. What we see in the balance sheet that really flags as different from previous years is there was a revaluation which has boosted our balance sheet by about $16 million. And that's symptomatic of it's costing more to reconstruct stuff should damage occur to our assets, and a general increase in valuations of items, and we can expect that trend to continue. So this evening, I'm inviting the recommendation for council is that they approve in principle the financial statements and the performance statements for the year 30th of June 2022. And then there's a gap in the recommendation, so that they authorise Councillor A and Councillor B to certify the financial statements and performance statements for the year on behalf of council once any amendments or changes are made as requested by the Victorian Auditor General. I understand the recommendation where the two gaps are is often the Mayor and then A and other, possibly the Personal and Finance Committee, but it's up to the council.
I'll move this recommendation. Well, I was going to talk to that.
Okay. So, Councillor Forsyth moved that and
I'm happy to second.
Councillor Kelly and then Councillor Forsyth will talk to names.
Certainly. So because it is in two parts, there's two recommendations. So I would like to move that Councillors Nicholas and Councillors Kelly certify our financial statements as they are the members of the Finance Committee. So you probably need to have a mover and a seconder for that lot as well.
Did you move that?
I've moved
You
it.
moved that. Thank you. With the names in it. And a second, thank you, Councillor Keeble.
Good.
So has that been minuted appropriately? Yep. Move the first part and then the second part. Lovely. Thank you. Councillor Kelly, would you like to talk to the first part?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things stand out here. I think the surplus number is significant, but I would highlight that a good portion of that is around a grant that goes to our operating costs for the following financial year, and also a portion of that is also committed to projects that are underway, under construction or about to commence construction. I think what I would say is that, you know, we do carry a pretty good surplus overall in terms of our balance sheet and what's sitting in the bank. And I've said it before, but I'll say it again, I'm really mindful of what hardship levels, you know, we may experience in our shire in this coming year. Inflation continues. The Reserve Bank put up rates again today. So I think affordability and particularly mindful of those who are longer standing residents, perhaps didn't enter our market in the last couple of years. You know, the cost increases could be significant. The other comment I make about a large cash surplus is also the productive use of our resources and our ratepayers' contribution to that. So, you know, at some point when you've got a lot of money in the bank, you should be thinking about what you do with that to the benefit of ratepayers. And I think, you know, we've got a good surplus there. We do have some challenges this year in terms of the cost of delivering our budget will be challenging as well. We're facing inflating, rising costs as well. But we're starting from a really strong point fiscally, and I do congratulate the team, because I think FY22 is showing a really neat result, and you know, the auditors confirmed the neatness of that result. You know, FY23 will probably challenge us in some ways that FY22 didn't.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Councillor Forsyth, did you want to add anything to the second motion?
I'll reserve my right.
Okay. I'm going to put the first motion to the vote. Oh, first motion? First part of it? Because you've got... Yep.
Thank you. So I don't know, what is it, 2008 when I first started, the Shire finances weren't really in a great spot then. And through many decisions, we get to the point where we are now, and we do have a surplus. However, it doesn't actually take much to erode that if, you know, if there was something to happen in a waste facility, you know, all that sort of stuff. So it's good to have a little buffer. I certainly isn't able to build a $20 million 50-metre pool in Bright, but you know, heated. You know, we don't have any loans. We're in a good financial position, and it's a good space to be. I don't want to be in the other position, but we can, you know, springboard from here as well. So it's good to see that we're continued, you know, the good work. It's really hard to keep a council, you know, to a budget, not because people can't, just because things, you know, cost of things do increase. And sometimes when you budget for something, 10 months down the track when you build it, those costs have gone up through no fault of, you know, anyone, really. That's just how that happens. So hats off to everyone who is in that financial area in the and who have budgets, because it does take a lot of effort to keep everything under control. It is not easy, so well done.
Any further comments or questions on the first part of this motion? No? Then we will move.
I didn't mean to pick on the pool, sorry.
We're just crossing our fingers forever. We'll put the first part, the approving in principle financial statements and the performance statement of the year ended 30th of June 2022 to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried. And then the part two, usually don't have two motions on the table, so it was a very smooth operator, but we're getting there. Tripped up a bit by having our names put up. So does anyone have anything to say other than Councillor Forsyth has already spoken, Councillor Keeble's already spoken to part two of this motion? No. Okay, I'll put that to vote two. All those in favour of the recommendation, and that is passed. Thank you. Item 9 is informal meetings of councillors, and we have a list of the meetings that we have attended, all briefing sessions. Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Thank you, Councillor Prime. Oh, it's getting late, isn't it? There's too many Ks.
Just a question on that, Madam Mayor, if I could.
Please.
Number of councillors attended Toowoomba on the, I think it was 12th of August.
Yep, with a staff member.
Should that, with a staff member, should that be included in these notes?
Yep.
Is it 4 or more or 3 or more?
I wasn't sure what the number is.
3 or more.
So it should be
Yep,
With council officers.
12th of August, so we'll add that to the table in the minutes. Yep,
Thank you.
Happy to add that as the...
a part of the recommendation. Yep. Thank you, Councillor Keeble. And Councillor Prime, you're happy with that too?
Yeah.
Pick up.
Yep. Further comments, questions?
Sorry,
oh,
Madam
sorry.
Mayor, just because we're recording, just a note that we'll amend the minutes after the meeting.
Yes,
We won't,
thank you.
we're not
Yes,
gonna try and
yes,
mess with them now.
yes.
That's okay.
So for those people who are on tape,
Yep.
Havercroft has clarified that we will amend the minutes after the meeting, but August the 12th as will be added as an on-site visit in Kiwa Valley. Is that the right date? Yes. Well, there are two. There was the one just last week. Yeah, so there's one at Gundowring and one at Kiwa and Toowoomba. We had 3 councillors at Gundowring with staff. Yep. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Are we referencing planning forums in these informal meetings? Is that what, because Gundowring was a planning
It was a planning forum, yes, you're
and
correct.
we don't
Yes,
usually
thank
refer
you.
to those, so I
Yep,
don't think that goes on.
Yep, confused because it was out of the office.
No problem.
Thank you. Yep, yep. So informal meetings only here. Thank you. Any further comments or questions or clarifications or corrections? You've got another one? No. Okay. We'll take the recommendation to the vote. The summary is received. All those in favour, good. Thank you. Presentation of reports by delegates. And I'm going to start on my right with Councillor Forsyth. An opportunity to talk about meetings that have been attended as a representative of council. Thank you, Councillor Forsyth. Councillor Kelly.
None, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Hughes. Councillor Janus.
Just that I'm the delegate for the LTP program, council delegate, and attended that function, which I've already spoken to.
Thank you.
None
Councillor
for me.
Prime. Councillor Keeble.
None for me. That has already been answered.
I did attend the Rural Councils Victoria meeting in Dalesford last Friday, and we had a great discussion about housing. It was mostly presentations and questions, but interesting to hear about a number of pilots across the state. And we had a number of political presentations by current members, ministers and opposition people, and we also had a report from Ironbark Sustainability Group about a project that they've been doing to help local government areas move into the sustainability space and do climate action plans, a bit like the one that we already have in place for their corporate emissions. So it was a good meeting to attend, but I got information rather than having lots of good discussion. And then we can move on to general business. Item 11, and I'm going to start at the other end just to confuse everybody.
I'll move this.
Oh, sorry, thank you.
I'll move this first part of general business.
Thank you. So the item in general business, for those who don't have an agenda in front of them, are to nominate Councillor Janus as a representative of the council at the upcoming Municipal Association of Victoria meeting. Moved by John Forsyth and seconded by Katarina Hughes, sorry. And is there any further comment or discussion?
No, it's just that, sorry.
Yep.
This is an important vote that is coming up, and it's a shame that neither Councillor Nicholas nor myself can actually be at this one. This is to do with some rule changes within the MAV. Those rule changes basically are along the lines of one council, one vote. At the moment, there is a duopoly or a dual voting for some of the larger councils, so it'll be good to change that so that we all have equality within the voting. There is also some rules regarding the length of tenure of the president or the chairman, and also for the reps, and that the fact that if a council does decide not to be a member of the MAV, the person who has been elected as the president doesn't lose that position. So there are some good things coming out, and we need someone there to vote on it.
Thank you. Any further comments? No. Take the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. And I'd just like to add that the reason I'm not there is because it's Friday the 16th of September, and that's when our youth awards are on in the Alpine Shire. I thought they were very important. For the general business, Councillor Keeble. No. Councillor Prime.
None from me.
Councillor Janus.
Nope.
Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. We are coming into school holidays soon, and with local businesses, there's already a shortfall in people available to work, and sometimes coming into school holidays, it can actually become harder for families with younger children because they will be at home, therefore less workers involved as well. So just pointing it out there that if anybody is in a position where, you know, they might be able to fill in some shifts and things like that, that there are, I reckon you could door knock on any single door in the Alpine Shire and say, I can help out, and they'll take you. So just keep that in mind, that we will have an influx of people and we may have less people being able to help them out. So that is still an ongoing issue. Be kind, be patient is all I ask.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, just one question regarding Harrietville Better Places project, whether just the next steps and timeline can be neatly wrapped up in 20 seconds or something.
Elevator pitch.
The elevator pitch, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. I'll take this one. The team is currently finalising their assessment of the feedback that came through the final round of community engagement. My understanding is that within the next week, they'll be going back out to the community with that feedback.
It's 20 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Jeremy. I guess I was also curious as to, you know, subsequent to the results of that feedback, you know, what are the next steps? Are we targeting the first build in winter next year, or?
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. So I'll have to take the start of build on notice, but we're working through the timeframe according to the funding agreement that we've signed up to, that has a completion date of end of financial year 23-24, so 30th of June 2024. So we'll be delivering within that period.
Thank you, Mr Jeremy. That's useful. Ta.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Councillor Forsyth.
Thank you. Just general business, but it's asking a question more than giving general business, and that is, I note within the financial reports that we have quite a stack of money sitting in long-term deposits and what have you. My question really, and this is for future reference, is that amount increasing each year? Has it increased over the last, say, 5 years? Are we gradually building money that we're not utilising? Going back to what Councillor Kelly was talking about earlier, about having heaps of money and not doing something for the public with it.
Thank you, Councillor Forsyth. I would have to take on notice the 5-year trend, and I'm happy to do that. But I wonder if it would be... So we've just procured the services of a new long-term financial plan, and hopefully that will give a greater level of granularity about how much the capital projects that we've had over the last couple of years will cost into the longer term, so for their maintenance and their renewals. A piece of work that at the moment is very high level in our long-term financial plan, hopefully with a greater level of granularity, and a focus on how much things are costing from a maintenance perspective will give a better understanding to officers and councillors about how much of that money might be available to spend on other stuff other than keeping the assets that we have currently and scheduled for this year in a really good condition, safe condition. I'll take on notice the 5-year trend.
Thank you, Councillor Forsyth, and nothing from me. Item 12, motions for which notice has previously been given. There are none. Item 13, reception and reading of petitions. There are none tonight. Item 14, documents for sealing, and we have 8. And there is a recommendation that they be signed and sealed. Okay. Councillor Keeble and Councillor Janus. Thank you very much. Any comments? All those in favour? That is passed. Thank you very much. And that, I believe, let's keep scrolling down my page, is the end of the meeting at 6:22 p.m. Thank you very much.
And thanks for sticking around, Mary.
Yep.
Players and the players, that's it.
We done?